The Fisherman's Wharf area on the San Francisco Bay has become sort of a ferry service. One boat of Indians comes in from Alcatraz, another one goes out. Today, the Los Angeles contingent, led by Harvey Wells, came in to return to L.A., and we talked to him.
Welcome to Turning Island, how the occupation of Alcatraz Island was a turning point in the history of Native American civil rights. A documentary diving into the complex material of the American Indian experiences and actions taken in San Francisco during the early 1960s. This era consisted of much social and cultural transformation in uncovering the often overlooked history of the Native communities and finding a changing landscape, highlighting the challenges they faced, and defining their resilience.
This island here represents no man's land, where they can get the attention of the public, they get the attention of the press, and get the attention of the government officials.
Although the Native American occupation of Alcatraz Island may have been geographically small, its significance and ripple effects resonated far and wide. The audacious act of the proclamation of Alcatraz and their relentless 2-year dedication to the occupation captured the attention of both American society and the government, and ultimately leading to substantial societal and federal change.
The conflict started in the late 17th century, when white settlers in the West clashed with the Native American people over their land and natural resources. The many tribes resisted the settlement on reservations, which led the U.S. government to fight for control in the series of conflicts within the Indian War. In 1868, a conference was held in Fort Laramie, in present-day Wyoming. This meeting resulted in a treaty with the Native Americans. This treaty informs that the Native Americans and whites have agreed to peace and arranged land settlements. Ever since European settlers moved western during expansion, Native American communities have been moved, renamed, combined, disappeared, and in some cases destroyed. In the 1950s, the state of California was leading the nation as it became the largest state in the Union. Its aerospace, oil, electronics, tourism, and entertainment industries dominated the nation. Its economy became one of the largest in the world. So the goal of the country was to keep it clean and keep the honor in the state of California. More hate surrounded the natives due to them being the poorest minority group in the state of California. The Native American cultures were at the point of extinction, till many Native groups came together to discuss their culture's future. In 1968, Native American activists Dennis Banks, Clyde Bellencourt, and George Mitchell gathered hundreds of intelligent Native American individuals in Minneapolis, Minnesota, aiming to notice the ultimate goal of forcing the United States government and its people to recognize Native American sovereignty. In 1969, the AIC, American Indian Center, was mysteriously burnt down. This led to Richard Oakes and other indigenous groups to have the idea of occupying Alcatraz Island, as it was unused federal land, which many of the native ancestors suffered in. Richard Oakes, a leader at the moment, gathered 150 to 200 Native Americans to storm the federal island. This journey wasn't just for recognition. It was to be a living space for the natives as they try to regain social structure among the United States of America.
Life on Alcatraz Island was a true test of the activists' dedication and commitment. Their makeshift community on the isolated former prison highlighted their resilience and determination. They faced harsh living conditions with sparse access to resources and basic amenities. Yet, the challenging environment became a symbol of their relentless spirit and commitment to the cause.
Subject to any different type of conditions that we aren't subjected to out there in the city or on the reservation, like it's always cold and, you never have that much to eat anyway.
Leaders of this movement, including figures like Richard Oakes, played a pivotal role in shaping daily life on the island. They worked tirelessly to maintain a sense of unity and purpose among the diverse group of Native Americans who gathered there. Their efforts were instrumental in keeping the flame of activism alive on the island during the occupation.
Manning the island of Alcatraz is a positive step in that direction.
The name Indians of all tribes was not just a label, but rather it represented a powerful message of unity among all Native American communities. This collective identity served as a unifying force, bringing together peoples from various tribes and backgrounds, all sharing a common goal of reclaiming their rights and heritage.
We want an ecology center, we want an Indian museum, we want a Native American Studies department. We want to do something here for our own people. The white man's tried to educate us for the last 400 years, and it's been a dismal failure.
People were in outrage and started a protest. In 1969, during the occupation, people were protesting on land against what the Indians were doing, and people protested on land in favor of the occupation. In 1969, a movement was organized and named Trail of Broken Treaties March, where protesters marched in Washington, D.C. This was to gain recognition during the occupation, to show that it wasn't just the occupiers of Alcatraz who were being discriminated against. Many news reports and government officials surrounded the coast of Alcatraz as they waited for something to happen. Days pass and the Americans start to realize that this wasn't a temporary thing. On September 4th, 1970, a news report, Negro Group, tries a broker deal for the American Indian occupying Alcatraz. This was an outrage after countless attempts to make a deal with the Native Americans, but they did not concede. The stubborn Native Americans waited till they got exactly what they wanted. Many other organizations tried many deals just like that, until there was a conference held on the island that ended up getting denied by the Native Americans once again.
You will actually file a formal claim on the island?
Yes, we will.
How soon will you go to the board?
Well, at this time, I believe there's already been a letter somewhat similar to this proclamation that's already been issued to the President of the United States and one to the United Nations.
As the occupation continued, the U.S. government faced mounting pressure to address the concerns raised by the Native Americans on Alcatraz. The occupation had gathered much attention nationally and internationally. In November 1969, when the Alcatraz Proclamation was issued by the occupiers, emphasizing their demands and their refusal to leave until those demands were met, the government then began to take action, recognizing the urgency of the situation. Although when federal agencies began to engage with the occupiers to find a resolution, they were unsuccessful. And with much going on with the higher-ups of the government at the time, especially dealing with the civil rights movement on a broader scale, the officials were therefore very conscious about their every move. With the stubborn activists locked in place, the government took indirect action, cutting off their supply to fresh water and, more importantly, power. This was most important because then, when one night in that July of 1971, a large container ship crashed into San Francisco Bay, and was reportedly due to inadequate maintenance of the lighthouse on Alcatraz Island, and therefore the forced removal of the occupiers was justified and cleared by the U.S. government. Though the government did make good on their wrongs, and as a result of the occupation, either directly or indirectly, the official policy of termination of Indian tribes was ended, and a new official U.S. government policy of Indian self-determination was issued and implemented.
You know, Sam, the build-up to these events was truly remarkable and should be deeply remembered in history.
Honestly, Hugh, I cannot agree more. The actions the Native American activists took were brave and heroic, and widened the perspective of all Americans in the United States. As a result of the occupation, and because of the attention brought to the troubles that many Native American communities faced, federal laws were created that demonstrated new respect for Aboriginal land rights and for the freedom of all to maintain their traditional cultures.
The United States government finally reaching an understanding sets the standard for all people living in America.
Although it did take many years to create a better life for natives living in this new America, especially for them after watching their land and culture get stolen and practically destroyed, just for them to be restricted from prospering, both financially and culturally, in the new society.
Yes, the Native Americans being the poorest minority group in the U.S. was definitely an important factor in the revolt against the government, but it was mostly because of how they were treated.
They had lost everything, and therefore had nothing to lose. The activists had truly gone out on their own, taking advantage of their only federal loophole, which stated that Native Americans were legally allowed to occupy abandoned federal land, ultimately providing them with the largest gain, the opening of the chapter to the Native American civil rights in the U.S. that's still going on today.
It's crazy. It's almost like this occupation turned the page into that chapter.
Almost like a turning point in history. Yeah, I agree. I feel like the heroic actions taken by these Native American activists to open the door to equal rights and their long-lasting impacts do truly make the occupation of Alcatraz a turning point in U.S. history.